The #1 Terran in the world is taking on the #1 Protoss. What I've got for you today is a best of 7 series of top level StarCraft 2, where in game #1 in the top right hand corner, playing with the blue Terran SCVs, you know him, you love him, we have none other than Clem, of course, joined by the little polar bear on the main command center. And of course, Clem is the world champion of StarCraft 2. Now today, his opponent has been his main nemesis in 2025 so far. With the red Protoss pieces, he goes by the name of herO. Both of these players, they play in a ton of online cups. And because of it, they face against each other over and over and over again. Now, apparently we're starting off with a proxy gate here at the top of the map. Interesting. Reaper is scouting around. So far, Clem is not going to find out exactly what he's playing against. So, these two, they've been playing against each other over and over and over again. And Clem, he's been destroying everybody else. herO, he's got about a 60% win rate. So Clem against herO, he's got about a 60% win rate against this Protoss player. But for Clem's standards, that's pretty bad. He's been winning a lot more against everybody else. But sadly for him, well, this is the man he is facing here today. He's really trying to force that Reaper up there. A little bit messy. I don't know if he expected that suddenly there would be more space. Either way, the Adept is going to be able to shoot his way. And at this point, of course, herO knows that this, well, proxy gateway of his has been completely unscouted. This particular series, this best of 7, is the semifinals of the Pigsty tournament. So the winner of this particular match is going to face off against herO in a best of 9 grand finals. I've got the replays for it. Sadly for me, I already know who's going to be in that finals. As a matter of fact, sadly for me, double sad, I actually know who ends up winning the entire event, because it's pretty much impossible for me to avoid tournament spoilers. But either way, I will be casting that series in the near future too, so if you aren't subscribed already, make sure you go ahead and do so you get notified as soon as that series goes live, because apparently it is absolutely amazing. Now, the Adepts are starting to flood in. There's a lot of aggression across the board. The Marines, for some reason, have decided to leave their little bunker over here. So far, though, it's actually not the end of the world here for Clem. He does have a Widow Mine up on the high ground, too. It's just the sheer number of Adepts here that can become a massive problem. With this many Adepts, you can even start worrying about some of those structures here if you really decide to target them down. For the time being, though, everything here is going okay. Additional units are going back home now, too, with Clem trying to deal some damage on the other side of the map. Decides to cancel the Shade here, just to continue being a nuisance. herO, of course, is also making probes 2 at a time. He is making that slower transition now into the Twilight Council. And actually, he leaves the front door wide open. I think this is the last thing you need to do with that supply depot. Normally, I criticize herO for leaving his natural open, but apparently Clem is like, yo, come on in. I have a door inside of my base, but I decided to lower it just for you. Well, the French, of course, always known for their hospitality. They will always invite you in, a warm welcome. But it turned out that herO decided to join his main base and drank all of his wine. And then killed 10 SCVs in total. Not a bad beginning here whatsoever for the Protoss player. Third Next is now coming up. Blink indeed is going to be researching. We will see the +1 in the Forge here eventually. Widow Mine. Okay. Decent splitty. Sadly here for the Protoss, he used the wrong one. But this is still looking pretty solid though. He gets even more kills. Yeah, gonna just deal some more damage there to Jimmy as well. This has been held for the time being. But of course, the next attack here from Protoss is going to hit like an absolute truck. There's no stim pack, there's no combat shields, there's no +1. There's a whole lot of nothing here for our Terran, so he's going into a Raven, I guess, just to be safe against any potential Dark Templar follow-up, and it's still very nice when it comes to the utility, but yeah, I can't really blame Clem here. He's got nothing. Next up, we find ourselves on Ultra Love. A very rapid 1-0 advantage here for our Protoss player from Korea. So far, at the very least in this match, everything's looking pretty normal, so I fast-forwarded to the 2-minute mark. Just so we can get to the action a little bit quicker, as both players are opening up a very, very standard. Reaper now trying to be a bit of a nuisance. Probe has been sent all the way across, and you will now see that there is indeed, well, a whole lot of nothing on the low ground. Command center, though, is within sight as the probe goes all the way up to the high ground, and herO now knows what he's playing against. Instant Twilight Council this time around. Clem, by the way, he was thinking maybe that previous match was still playable for like the first half minute of it. Maybe he believed he already started up the Stimpack research a little earlier, but either way, yeah. It was a bit of a strange GG timing, right? But when you think about it, he didn't have the eco, he didn't have the infrastructure, he didn't have the army, he didn't have a timing attack lined up, he didn't have anything. So at that point, your only chances are playing a macro game against an opponent who's more than an entire base up. Which, yeah, at this level of StarCraft, good luck. Maybe if it was a ladder game, maybe it'd be doable, but against somebody of herO's caliber, when you're playing a best of 7, this could be a very long match. It's probably best to save your stamina, save your APM for the next match. All right, so a safety command center inside of the main base. Cyclone now available. Clem's gonna be starting that one across the map, and there are, of course, adepts. Adepts are relatively easily targeted down with those cyclones. At this point, herO also knows, though, what he is playing against. Additional Marines are going to be joining the battlefield. Blink is about halfway done. He's waiting for a siege tank. Actually, very aggressive opener here by Clem. Cutting into his worker production a little bit just to squeeze out as many units as possible. Gets a free adept here. Honestly, this is the type of attack that is very, very scary. This is by no means an all-in from Terran, but it is the type of thing that if you micro it correctly, it can actually win you the game. Okay, nice pickup control on those Terran Marines here as well. Warp Gate is, of course, very exposed. Immortal now starts up. Blink is still not yet available. I would love to see Chrono Boosts on that. Okay, that's one gateway down the drain. That means that there's only a single gateway and a single robo facility available at this point here for herO. Clem decides to inch that siege tank forward. Landed Viking here on the ground too. I mean, he's hitting right before Blink. Good timing. Probes are in a world of trouble now. Immortal is out. That Immortal has potential, but it also gets blasted within just a couple seconds. Probes pulled away from the mineral line now just to try and keep all of this around. But this is an absolute disaster here for herO. Lovely micro by Clem. Knowing exactly what he needs to look for. Robo facility now unpowered. Dude, we have landed Viking juggling inside of a medevac. This is what 2025 StarCraft looks like. Clem basically has a warp prism as Terran here. It's a little cursed. It's extremely difficult to execute, but you can theoretically keep a lot of these Terran troops alive. And now the Nexus itself is in some trouble. I think targeting the Robo is probably a safer bet. I'd love the Liberator here joining in as well. I think Clem has just done it. Yeah, we have another Desperation Blink moving forward, but there's nothing remaining. GG, wow. Well, at this rate, this entire best of 7 is going to be done within like 20 minutes. Neither player apparently too keen to play anything out. herO winning a quick game in game number 1. Clem, well, arguably even faster in the second match of the series. Now we find ourselves on El Dorado, and this map it always feels a lot bigger at the very least. The rush distance, it's quite significant, and obviously there's a lot of expansions that you can take. However, if both players decide to expand towards the bottom section of the map, well, we might be looking at a very fast one once again. All right, command center on the low ground. Double gas a little bit later. So, of course, the starport is going to be added into the mix here, too. Twilight Council once more on the other side of the map, as herO is going to try again to be building up that Blink. At the very least, it should be Blink. He will be going for the low ground. Dude, TVP is so aggressive these days. Whenever I think about TVP, so it's interesting because a lot of TVP is actually quite passive. Remember how TVP was played like a year or two ago, where a lot of the games were essentially, well, very slow. Like, there was some early game aggression, but then as soon as Terran sits back and they have to get the research going for Stimpack and combat shields and the +1 infantry attacks, and they slowly build up their bases, make a third command center, right? Like, there's this massive lull in the game. These days, because everybody's so aggressive at the top level, there seems to be very little of that. Clem right now, trying to scout around and see what's happening. No proxies this time around, but against herO, you never know. herO now doing the same thing here too. Trying to see if there's anything fishy happening. Okay, never mind. He is the one doing the fishiness. Keep in mind, of course, that there is a nice little blink location over here. Behind those golden mineral fields. Clem, though, is accidentally going to stumble upon a pylon. It's the first thing of Protoss he sees. That's a little funky. There were two options. Either his opponent was AFK in this game, or there was a Protoss out there somewhere in the fog of war. Looks like herO is thinking about maybe actually getting the gold base as his very first, like, a low ground base, but then he's gonna mine it from the quote-unquote wrong side? I think that's maybe the plan. Either way, Hellion has decided to drive in. Stalkers were waiting in the main base to try and intercept this marine drop. Love that Widow Mine positioning. Good bit of damage done here by the Terran player already. Completely catching herO here off guard. Once more, Blink is just a few seconds away from finishing, but Clem is dealing an awful lot of damage before it's done. Sorry, Jimmy. You are left alone. No, I don't think you're gonna get the medevac. The medevac is going to retire, looking at the waterfall for a little bit. Always nice. Okay. So interestingly enough, I feel like whenever we see this map, sadly, this is one of my personal favorite maps, we don't see this one all too often. Seems like it gets vetoed quite a bit in the best of 3s and the best of 5s, but whenever we see the gold base being mined on this map, it seems to be like 9 out of 10 times on the quote-unquote like a wrong side of the mineral wall. It's supposed to be mined over here with, you know, the gas geyser being located, but most commonly it seems to be this site that the players are, well, organizing, and I can't really blame them. I don't really know exactly why we have 2 skinny mineral fields over here. Always seemed funky to me. I think the map maker originally intended this map to be mined differently, but the pro gamers have decided to, yeah, go with their approach. And it certainly does seem to be very, very effective. The main problem here, though, is that, well, you get a lot of mineral income, but no gas. Doesn't really bother Protoss players, though. Doesn't really bother Zerg players either, for that matter. Terran players could also make work of it, but not as easy for them. Would be more of like a 4th base, I suppose, for Terran. Either way, we are gonna see our longest game in the series so far. We're already at the 6-minute mark. By far the longest game, actually, in the series so far. Okay. Shield battery coming up. And he is gonna send some probes here, too, to mine out these skinny mineral fields just to widen the ramp a little bit. Obviously, Clem doesn't have any melee units, so he generally would benefit from having tighter wall-offs like this. Interestingly enough, this never occurred to me until I played StarCraft for many, many years, but it's really only SCVs that are melee units for Terran. Isn't that kind of wild? Like, how are there no melee units for Terran? Everything's ranged. Anyways. If they were supposed to be Space Marines from Warhammer once upon a time, those guys at the very least have, you know, power weapons and all that, but not the case here. Anyway, mules, by the way, don't have an attack at all. So mules can't attack. I don't know why. You'd imagine they could at the very least like try to drive over something, but nope. No damage possible for mules whatsoever. Alrighty, so we are actually just gonna take the gold base over here too now. Huh. Clem is also... I mentioned how usually Terrans don't seem to benefit from this as much. I mean, obviously it's still nice. You kind of need the gas income, though, at some point, too, to be able to... Oh, God, it gets really awkward here, because some of the SCVs are automatically going to the blue mineral field here on the top. Ay, this is weird. I think maybe the orbital is supposed to be 1 square further to the right. Look, the SCVs can't make up their mind. He has to individually send them to the golden mineral line now, but I think they will likely automatically return to the blue ones. Anyway. Big push coming up for Clem. He's not going to be microing his... Ooh, beautiful anti-armor missile. He's not going to be microing his SCVs in that mineral line, but he does have a real opportunity here to be aggressive. Charge is only about maybe halfway done. Clem not opting, or herO not opting to go for any of that, well, quick storm play that we have been seeing a lot from Protoss players as of late. Colossus now coming up. That's nice. Feels a little old school. Still obviously quite a normal way to play, but Clem's army is just looking absolutely massive. Yeah. I mean, without charge, you're gonna have a hard time dealing damage to this. There's no way. herO, there's nothing to be gained here, dude. herO thinks there is something to be gained. He thinks maybe he can clean up this entire army. I'm not so sure that this is really worth it. If he loses the Colossus? I mean, that was actually not bad so far, though. For Protoss. The Colossus is expensive. Yeah. I'm not sure why herO decided to engage there, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. He probably hoped that he was going to be able to wipe the floor with that army. But positionally, there was nothing to be gained there. Maybe a bit tunnel visioned. Or maybe he truly believed that that was the way to go. Either way, now Clem has opened up an opportunity to just be pushing through. Awkward mining on some of the blue mineral fields or not. He's got a 4th command center coming up, and once more, wow. We just immediately end this match with pretty much the first attack. I mean, at this rate, this is going to be the fastest best of 7 I've ever cast. Next up, we find ourselves on Whispers of Gold. And Clem starts off the game by sending an SCV across the map. Hyper-aggression is certainly the theme in this particular series. I mean, the previous game, that was by far the most macro-focused match, but ultimately that was just really the first attack that Clem decided to go for. That just ended the match straight up. I'm a little surprised with how much herO struggled there. I wasn't really paying super close attention to exactly what Protoss was doing. I just sort of assumed that everything was going normal, but there was a very obvious giant gap in his gameplay there. Not having charge at that point really hurt him, and he immediately paid the price. Yeah, top level StarCraft 2 is brutal, though. StarCraft 2 in general is a very brutal game. You make one mistake, well, it's probably game over, but at this level, the margin for error is absolutely tiny. We only really get macro games when both players agree to it, and when both players are of, well, similar skill level. If you make a mistake, like for example delaying charge, boom, game over. If you forget Stimpack, boom, game over. It's not even about forgetting. It's about delaying it, sometimes for just a couple seconds. That can already cost you the match. Well, herO has now seen that something here is not quite right. He decides to start up a Zealot over here just because he knows that he needs something. Probe decides to go on over towards the top right-hand corner. Alright, apparently because Clem got spotted, he decides to not really commit too hard to this cheese. Interestingly enough, he built this barracks all the way across the map and is now sending it all the way back home. herO has decided now that his best way to fight fire is with fire. Dude, these two, they're just so aggressive. Robo facility proxy, let's go. When was the last time we've seen that? Extremely uncommon. But obviously, since Terran won't have a whole lot at home, yeah. I mean, he was spotted and he decides to just not commit anymore. So there's some mind games going on here, right? herO still has to sort of pretend that this push is likely coming, but he also knows that he scouted his opponent really early. So he knows that his opponent knows that he's been spotted, and therefore there might just be a chance that Clem is not gonna commit to the push in the first place. You can't really go and face check though with a Stalker, because if there are concussive shelled Marauders out there, you're in a world of trouble. You will just lose the Stalker for free. Instead though, herO has decided to play a couple steps ahead of the Terran, and he decides to go for a Robo Cheese. Interestingly enough, in this instance, if Clem would have committed to the Marauder all-in, he would have been fine. I think he would probably obtain the victory right about right now. Clem, respecting his opponent, decides to make the call to go home, and then ultimately probably should have committed to the cheese here regardless. Okay. Marauder is available. Concussive shells never finished. This is awkward now for herO though. You look at herO here and you're like, what? Sorry, what's going on? We're warping in some sentries. A little dance will begin between all of these attacking units in just a second. It's a lot of sentries, by the way. We only have sentries in his army. Well, 2 Stalkers, or 2 Adepts and a Stalker and a Zealot too, but it's mostly sentries. Are we going to elevator them into the main base? Alright, these units, yep, they can go inside of the plane too. Nice little elevator play by herO, using the units from the low ground to go up to the high ground, and then also using this now as a warp-in point to delay this attack by the absolute smallest margin. Cyclone can obviously be denied really well. Perfect force fields to slice that army in half. Now suddenly, the Terran structures are flying. SCVs have been pulled as well to try and keep this army alive. A big warp in the middle of this fight. Guardian Shield really reducing a lot of the incoming damage. Immortal available. I love the Immortal here. 18 SCVs have gone down, guys. We have another fast one. This series, it's going to be over in a heartbeat. GG. So once more. Normally, right, I fast forward to the 2-minute mark because that's usually when the game begins. I once more put the game on ×8 speed. And the first thing I see is a little probe wiggling its way towards the other side of the map. Talisman is going to be the 5th game in this best of 7. Alright, looks like we're not going to be building anything too crazy, though. I was thinking maybe herO wants to be a jerk and build another proxy. Not going to be the case this time around. It is, of course, Talisman. I've seen a handful of games on this map so far, and all of them have been cheesy. So there's this low ground expansion. Skinny mineral wall over here, secondary entrance into the main base, and a little, I don't know, it's like a water theme park over here, you know? A little slip and slide for a worker unit to go down or up. Other units, however, like for example Jimmy, he doesn't fit. Jimmy's too thick. Brenda? Obviously Brenda's too thick. You already knew that. No, only worker units can, Brenda's thick with like 3 C's in all uppercase with spaces in between, okay? Anyways, there's a little slip and slide over here where only workers can go up and down, which is a cool little feature. SCV being hunted by a probe. Even the workers now are smelling blood. This is the piranha probe. Okay. Well, ultimately the Reaper will be out. Usually at about 2 minutes. So when that Reaper pops out of the barracks. I don't know why they go back and forth. Why do they wiggle? Why is there a wigglage? Is that a word? Anyways. He's going to be sending it back up here in a moment. So that's kind of cool, actually. So he's sending it over here. Looks a little arbitrary, but he's basically sending it in such a way that the Reaper will likely be dodged. Sadly for that probe, Clem has been playing this game for some time. And he knows that, well, this is usually what herO likes to do. So ultimately, the wigglage will not be completed a second time. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Alright, so, command center on the low ground. Bunker on the low ground too. We've got ourselves a Twilight Council once again. So, this is looking, and I want to be hesitant about it, but this is looking like a surprisingly normal game so far. Now, of course, that's what we had in the previous match too, and then suddenly everything was over. This map, by the way, has looked pretty cool. So, I find this whole expansion layout quite interesting with the secondary entrance into the main base. But then also rocks right over here that cut you off of your natural expansion pretty easily. So, you kind of have... like, you're sort of encouraged, if you take this base early, to mine out those mineral fields quickly, or to destroy the rocks. In both instances, though, you're increasing the mobility for your opponent, too. Which is quite that's quite cool. He wanted to get a scout off right there. I don't believe that Clem... no, he did. Okay. Clem actually just barely had vision. The Reaper died over here. The corpse of the Reaper did not get vision, obviously, but he must have just barely been far enough into the main base to see indeed that it is a Twilight Council opener once more. Raven will be Clem's weapon of choice now. Generally speaking, a very safe choice. You can send it across the map, of course, against the Blink Stalker opener and occasionally go into the bases here. Throw down a little auto turret or two. Get some damage in. Okay, so we should see tech labs here in a moment onto the barracks. Stimpack. Combat shields. I'm expecting an NG bay right over here. Right over here, Clem, is where I expect the engineering bay. Come on. Come on. Make me look good. One time. Oh, dang it! I'll get it. I'll get it at some point. And then the next time I do get it, people call me out again for pre-watching the game. Even though I don't. Even a broken caster is right twice a year. Anyway, Stimpack is coming up. A little bit of a supply block there. But all of this is totally playable. The ball right now is in herO's court. So, he's finished up the Blink research. He's got himself 3 gateways before building up the 3rd Nexus, which I'm expecting about right now, although he's decided to go into additional probes. Okay, that auto turret is really making him a little bit concerned. Now the 3rd base is actually a bit delayed. And this is awkward now. Yeah, how do you engage this? Do you use the Blink cooldown to go up to the high ground? But now you can't really blink it to the main base. Oh, God. Okay, I think this may be the first time herO is doing this on this map. This map is brand new. It's so ugly. Okay. In the meantime, we have an auto turret right over here, too, just to be a bit of a nuisance. Okay, aggressive blink in. Of course, aggressive blink in. What was I thinking? This entire series has been non-stop aggression so far. Another siege tank in a world of trouble. No repairs available for that bad boy. Both players dropping in the worker count. Nice little bit of pickup micro here, though, by our Protoss. Trying to keep all of these units around, although it wasn't the cleanest micro. He still gets 14 SCV kills. Maybe 15. One more, dude. It's chasing you right there. Okay, this one. This one. Okay, you got another one instead. Stalkers now continue in the main base once more. 3rd Nexus finally begun. An Immortal even began before the 3rd. That's crazy. Mass repair, mass repair, mass repair. Does not get it in time. And that means that even more workers are going to fall. My God. Raven. Marines, though, are now in such big numbers that it should be alright. We don't even have combat shields started, guys. Maybe he began it at some point, but the tech lab got sniped? I'm not exactly sure. But this is all so messy, and herO is gonna continuously put his foot on the gas. Now the Immortal has made its way all the way from the Protoss' natural across. There is oh, he loses the Prism. Oh, okay, that's big. There's also a second bunker here at the front. That was a major error, though, there from herO. Yeah. And now we're gonna have to make the walk of shame back home. Stimpack gets activated. No medevacs available, no combat shields available, so this is an exceptionally expensive stim. But he gets the Immortal, not living up to its name, and, well... Okay. Now with some medevacs out, I think it's Clem's turn to be the aggressor. Yeah, Clem wants to save up some more units, though. Still no combat shields. Can we please start up combat shields, dude? There we go. It's extremely late. Can you commit to an all-in when you don't have combat shields? I'm not so sure. It's additional hit points for those Marines, and it makes a massive difference. Okay. So, where do we end up? 17 SCVs were killed. 7 probes were killed. A lot of Stalkers, though, have also bit the dust. 4 siege tanks is quite a lot. That Raven, lumped together with those Marines, also got sniped pretty easily. Zealot is going to continuously be annoying, and charge is now done. Maybe don't charge into the Marines. Maybe charge back towards the medevac instead. The Protoss medevac, that is. Robo Bay on the back of this here from herO. herO has not gone High Templar a single time yet. I find it quite interesting because most Protoss players at this point have been loving the High Templar. Also Clem, whenever he plays Protoss, he's a High Templar man. Medevac drop though, just a single one inside of the main. Good force field. All that remains right now of those Terran units is, well, soon to be nothing, but just a couple of leftover parts. There's a Robo Bay. Colossus production should begin immediately. herO, we really need this. Instead, he's decided that we're gonna build up a 4th Nexus, and then also a Dark Shrine. Really? We're spending our money on a Dark Shrine? Okay. We're also going Colossus on the back of this, but this feels unnecessarily risky. Because of course Terran's gonna be able to, well, go for an attack in the near future. Clem obviously defended that push quite nicely. He got the other prism now. I think he's just about ready to go in for a move. And at that point, the Colossus will maybe be out, but it won't have ranged. herO can't really afford any of it. Dark Templar are still nice, though, for base defense, too. Usually they're, well, mostly used aggressively, but they can be used for defense. Nice little Zealot run by, though, to try and slow down this attack. herO's waiting in the middle of the map to try and see if he can maybe intercept some of those units, but herO has made a beeline, or Clem rather has made a beeline straight towards this 4th base. Zealots are everywhere, though. Now this little mineral field over here has been mined out. Obviously, the rocks have been destroyed, too. SCVs are falling. Clem has killed the 4th base now of herO. herO is destroying the Terran's economy. Colossus is now out. Ranged upgrade or not, it's still going to be powerful. Zealot there does eat a Widow Mine to the face, but that's acceptable. 13 SCVs in total have gone down. herO now at full 3-base saturation against the Terran, who's effectively just on 2 base. 4th Nexus restarts all the way in the top left-hand corner. Again, hyper-aggression. Rather than dealing with the units in your bases, just deal counter-attack damage instead. It's a perfect way of dealing with the aggression. Fan the flames. Don't take them out. Proxy gateway coming up at the bottom. herO, by the way, still not with a ranged upgrade on the Colossi. He hasn't even started it. We're prioritizing Shadow Strike, so that's the Dark Templar Blink ability, over the extended thermal lens. Second entry bay coming up right now for Clem, who's finally setting up in a defensive posture. 4th Command Center has begun. Armory coming up too, so he can go into the 2-2 research here eventually. No ranged on Colossi is nutty, though. I don't know if I agree with that. He's making his 3rd Colossus right now, but still no ranged. It would be a major oversight if he does not go for it very, very soon. Maybe he thinks he already started it and he's just waiting for the research to complete. Never actually double-checked in the Robo Bay. That would make this game very embarrassing, though, when we do have a big engagement. Because without range, those Colossi just get eaten by Marauders. Disruptor begins. Wow. Yeah, no, he's just completely forgotten about the Robo Bay upgrade. This is a herO moment. Phenomenal micro. Incredible multitasking. Forgetting ranged research. Like, now he must realize it, right? Oh, dude. Dude. Mistakes can be made. Anybody can make them. Dark Templar, in the meantime, though, are tearing the bases apart. Keep in mind that they have Blink, which is usually a luxury upgrade to go for. You don't really get that until much later. He's still not going for the research. So he must have noticed now. I think he's doing it on purpose. Forward expansion here for Clem. I've never seen this base get acquired on Talisman. Pretty wild looking base, and it looks like one that will be killed immediately. Free donation there by Clem. He has been busy putting out fires at home in the meantime. Yeah, I think he's making a full switch here towards Disruptors, so he doesn't care about the Colossi ranged. So he's basically realized it, I think, now, and he's realized, you know what, I'm not going to bother with it anymore because I don't need it. He is sort of move commanding a bunch of those units, though. Good splitty there by Clem. One of the Disruptors. Oh, all right. Goes in the opposite direction. Secondary Disruptor over here, too. Colossi are going to get picked off. And even though Clem is up with his back against the wall, he still has a huge army. Zealots here, mostly forming a distraction. We have more expansions here coming up all around the map. Terran's stuck on 3 bases, though. herO's got a ton of income compared to the Protoss. He's now fishing for a big Nova. A lot of Zealots waiting off to the side as well, trying to see if they can maybe go for a surround. It's basically just Zealots, though. 31 Zealots in total, and apparently this is when we pull the trigger. A full attack move here by herO. There's not much micro you can do with an army like this. Decent force field, though. I think he's got the numbers. Just barely. This could have looked very different. He's making 2 Colossi. Wait a second, dude. He made more Colossi and still no ranged. herO gets the job done. Making up to like 6 Colossi, and none of them have ranged. This entire series has been pretty wild. I can imagine that Clem realized that those Colossi didn't have range, even though they weren't his units. herO was actively microing the Colossi back though. We'll have to keep an eye out on the Colossus play. Whether or not this is going to be a theme moving forward with herO, because I am writing it off as a mistake. But maybe this is one of those decisions. Remember a long time ago when eLaser one day decided that Evo Chamber upgrades weren't worth it anymore and he just stopped making Evo Chambers? Or when he started playing just a handful of Queens because he didn't think Queens were worth it anymore? Maybe this is a similar spot where herO now has decided, you know what? Range for the Colossi, pointless upgrade. Don't bother with it. Match point here, though, on Starchild for herO. He's decided to go for a Stargate opener this time. First Stargate we see in this series. Yeah, this is one of those things that can work out really nicely. Ooh. Ooh, okay. It can work out really nicely if the opponent is not quite prepared for it. I have always been a fan of Stargate build openers in this matchup. I think Mass Phoenix is really fun. Clem is going to find out about the situation here in just a moment, since he's opened up with Reapers and then also a bunch of Hellions. This is an opener designed to kill workers, so we're going to try and run by everything. Lift up? Yep, nicely done. Bro, do you even Graviton lift? Gets the job done, though. Target firing down those Hellions primarily. And this is a good bit of damage here by the Terran. 7 probes is good, but obviously he did lose all of the units too. At the very least, he gets a full scout of the Protoss base, and now he knows what's happening. One of the big downsides, though, of playing Phoenixes is that even when you can be pulling ahead at this stage in the game, it's really difficult to end the match. It's technically possible, but Phoenixes are very much so a stepping stone to Colossi, or to charge, but we'll have to see if he decides to go into Colossi, whether or not he will be making the ranged upgrade for the Colossi this time around. Okay, this is a good lift up. Easy kill on the Cyclone, one of the scariest targets at this phase in the game. SCVs decide to repair the Viking back up. And we are going to be going into that third Nexus now on the low ground. So it looks like the follow-up will not be into Colossi. Instead, we're going to go into the charge lots. Or, well, we'll have to see exactly what he decides to go for. But most commonly, it is the charge lot. Yep. Will indeed be researched. Sentry coming up. And then the Zealot Warpins will begin. So it's really difficult for Terran to move out against Phoenix openers. This is only a handful of Phoenixes. We may very well see some additional production here in a moment, but it's not uncommon for Protosses to build like a dozen of them. And when you go up against a dozen Phoenixes and you don't have an overwhelming army, they just destroy everything. Either that, or if you do manage to sneak out a medevac, for example, they will fly into your main base, lift up half your workers, and then still be home in time for defense as well. So it's a difficult unit to play against as Terran. This is a very low commitment, though. There's going to be a moment here, if herO keeps darting back and forth like this, where Clem will certainly pick up on the fact that it's only going to be 3 Phoenixes, and no more than that. Anyway, by the time he gets across the map, charge will be done. Stimpack researching. Medevac production will also begin here momentarily. Okay. Starchild, by the way, I believe this was the winner of the previous Team Liquid map contest. So this was the map that won. However, it never made it to the map pool. I don't remember the reasoning, though. I don't know if they ever gave us any reasoning. 2 Phoenixes do bite the dust. But I've always liked Starchild. I think this is a... There's got to be a reason why it didn't make it to the map pool, right? You'd imagine. But we go through this very lengthy selection process. It literally takes months for a map tournament to conclude, and then there's a winner, and it doesn't go onto the ladder. You're like, okay, I don't know. Instead, we have Neon Violet Square and King's Cove and stuff. It's like, okay, brilliant, love that. That is a rant for another time. So despite starting off the follow-up with Zealots, a Robo Base still coming up here. Clem is setting up for full base defense, but I don't think that this is going to be a aggressive push by herO anytime soon. This is the downside of playing that Terran style right now, right? You just don't know anything. You're very, very blind here as Terran at this stage in the game. So he's made another Cyclone. He's trying to see, are there a lot of Zealots, like, right outside of my front door? Is there a chance that I am going to get overwhelmed here in a moment? Do I want to add on even more bunkers? Well, once more, he sees around the Zealots. Okay. At this point, he knows that this is not going to be committed, just based off of experience alone. Look at this! He's extending his thermal lance. How nice is that? I think it was a mistake in the previous game, dude. Has to be. Very strange, though. Very strange mistake. A couple Zealots get donated. Clem is now effectively just going to commit, though, to a full army. So, he does have a third command center on the back of this, so this is not an all-in on 2 bases, but this is still very committed. We saw something similar, though, in the game on El Dorado, where Clem ultimately went across the map and he just smacked his opponent in the face. herO trying to buy as much time as he can. Obviously, if herO wins this series, he will be the victor. Or if he wins this map, rather, he will be the victor of the series. And he will be facing off against herO in the grand finals of the Pigsty. So he's not really taking as many chances here. Feels like it's a bit of a shift, right, for both players? The aggression was fun and all, but now that it gets real serious, we're gonna take this with a little bit more of a passive approach. Okay. Big push over here, though, in the meantime. The distraction in the main base is nice. The fight over here is the really big one. A lot of probes are falling all over the map. 18 workers just like that. Zealots are also just gonna get overwhelmed. And this is a really good attack here from Clem. Once more, just hitting his opponent with effectively a 2-base push. With a 3rd base on the back of this, but 19 workers worth of damage is very, very good. Pylons have to be repowered, or they have to be used, rather, to repower some of those structures. herO's got a lot of high-tech units, but very little buffer. So how many Zealots have died? 28. Yeah, even more Zealots than probes. And that's a lot of resources that went down the drain. You can really only play this style effectively if you have a bigger economy. And herO now, with only 43 workers, he has to effectively commit now to a full all-in. Maybe he can bowl a lucky strike. Maybe? Nope. Maybe he gets a second hit, though. Yeah, the Colossi and the Immortals, they still deal a lot of damage. Disruptor goes down the drain. Great target firing here, of course, with those Vikings. Colossus falls as well. But there is a 4th Nexus. herO has restarted some of the worker production. He is between a couple of different strategies right now, right? He's trying to decide, okay, do I want to go for an all-in? I guess not. I'll make a round of probes, but maybe I should go for an all-in. I guess not. Maybe I should make a round of probes. If he committed to one of the two, I think that would have been much better. Now we're playing that middle-of-the-road approach, which honestly rarely works in StarCraft 2. You have to be decisive. And when you play a little bit of both, usually you fall behind. Oh, cheeky little Zealot charge there, trying to charge that Widow Mine into the friendly fire. Yeah, so he's made a round of probes several times. He's still making them right now, but he's also attacking. That can work if you're significantly ahead, but at this point, I'm not so sure that this is really the right approach. Ultimately, a trade of the armies is going to benefit Clem, because he's got more economy. Yeah, still. Oh, Colossus goes down again. Disruptor's trying their very best. Immortal, not living up to its name. Another one falls. Okay. 4th Command Center, by the way, built pretty much in this engagement. Right next to it. Clem's like, perfect position right over there. That SCV can see the Zealots charging in from the corner of its eye. Not concerned, dude. Put up the scaffolding. Don't worry about it. Another Disruptor goes down. Matter of fact, drop continues. Excellent multitasking here, of course. A single Phoenix has been produced now just to try and get these units off of his back. Nearly 500 actions a minute on average, by the way, here from Clem. spiking up to the 600s, which is the equivalent of about 10 buttons a second. Extremely rapid gaming here from Clem. Should we do a little bit of first-person view? This is what Clem was looking at while he was playing this match. The bottom right corner shows you his selection panel. So he's actually macroing while he's doing all of this. Yeah. Ultimately, he's just got way too much stuff. GG. And that now means that this series comes down to this final game. It takes place on the map Ley Lines. The score, 3-3. We've had hyper aggression to start this match off, but slowly but surely, everything has mellowed out just a little bit. Well, at the very least, as much as herO and Clem can mellow it out. Both of them are very aggressive in general. But I can imagine this might just be the most standard game of them all. So, this is the exact match, by the way, that no pro gamer ever wants to do, right? Like a final game in an important series, when it goes all the way to the final map in a best of 7. Ugh, it's the worst. This is where you have to be mentally very, very strong as well. And in my mind, historically, to be fair, he was very young, but I feel like historically, this is where Clem has always struggled a little bit. Obviously, he's become extremely successful in tournament play over the years. But back when he was like, well, I guess he was still a teenager, right? So you probably can't be too critical of him. But when he first got really good at the game, he did struggle in that department a little bit more, getting in his own head a bit too much. These days, though, when you see him play with like a player camera on, in this type of situation, he looks very angry. Like, rather than looking, you know, maybe a little bit insecure about it or just not entirely believing in yourself, he's got this look where he's ready to kill a man. And seems to be working out for him in tournament play over the last year. Taking home nearly $500,000 at the EWC. Not bad. All right, Adept sneaks in by design. Alright, 2 SCVs though in the end. Matter of fact, drop is now going to hit as well on the other side of the map. There is a Widow Mine in the mix. Just to be a nuisance. Yeah, unburrow, reburrow, unburrow, reburrow. Trying to get some damage in. 4 probes, quite conservative so far. Trying to bait this army back towards the Widow Mine. He's continuously reburrowing that unit. Just to trick his opponent a bit, and then ultimately he picks it up. He wants to get the Marine too. Alright. Widowmine actually escapes. In the meantime, bunker coming up at home. Additional barracks are building. And I'm gonna make the assumption that this time around, the engineering bay will go here. Come on. Don't let me down, Clem. Make me look smart. I know you're busy, but it's gonna be right over here, dude. Right over here. Right over here. Onto these, like, you know, these little, like, map nipples? Whatever these things are. Right over. I believe. You should see tech labs here. Onto the barracks in a moment. Oh! Dang it. Yeah, close. Real close. Alright, blink is done. We've been dancing back and forth for a little while. Now charge is going to be the next step in herO's master plan. Robo Bay will probably not be too far behind either. Although he could go and play the full Gateman style instead. Or Gatewayman style instead. Reaper trying to see what's happening. Clem now actually knows about the third base timing, which is very important. Can help you figure out how many gateways the Protoss player has used before they went for all of this. With 4 gateways, usually that base is a little bit later, although just because it's 3 or 2 does not mean that you are exempt from early game aggression. As herO is trying to showcase to us right now. Could still put in a bit of work. He was thinking about blinking into the main base. Because this is an important match though, we're not taking any chances. There's indeed the Robo Bay. Weird spot for it. 1 pylon to bind everything. Why build your most expensive tech structure, like, right over there? I don't know. He's building it like this bunker, right on the other side of the map. It's a bit weird. Oh, well. Probably won't matter. Third command center here. Building for Clem. Stimpack combat shields +1. All of it is just about to finish up, which is, of course, a major power spike here for the Terran player. So, if you wanted to go across the map right now, could be the time. Doesn't really need to. Extended thermal lens begins immediately this time. Colossus also has begun. Okay. Suddenly these Terran units, though, find themselves with a shield. With some new performance-enhancing... we have some power-ups here. So... does Clem have enough here to push across the map straight up and win the game? If it was just Stalkers and Zealots, possibly. Colossi usually are the answer. Specifically ranged Colossi, but that is going to be a little while. First Colossus at this point is out, though. Siege tank positioning is everything. Keep in mind, there's also a Raven. Although Interference Matrix was not researched. Anti-armor missile can still be helpful. The auto turrets are great. Widow Mines, of course, also extremely handy here. If Zealots decide to charge around the site to try and kill the siege tanks, that's when the Widow Mines kick in. He's seen now, though, that there is a Colossus, and Clem decides to not take any chances. He drives his army back home. Fourth Nexus building up north. You can feel the tension building in this game. Neither player wants to go out at this stage of the tournament. It's taken us 7 matches, but we found ourselves in the most ordinary looking game of Terran versus Protoss. Oh, first Templar Archives of the day. Incredible. It's funny because Clem, whenever he plays Protoss, he's been rushing that. He's been loving the Mass High Templar and the very quick storm. Clem going around the side. He's now found the Nexus. Getting a snipe on that Nexus? Ooh, that really will slow down Protoss a ton. That may just force herO into almost like a 3-base all-in situation. Clem, by the way, sent his army all the way around. What about this Zealot run by? He may have gotten a kill on the Nexus, but what about the Zealots? Well, the Zealots kill a Mule and an SCV, but that's it. More Zealots here, showing up a little late to the party, and this could be massive. Clem actually, oh, he's going to be able to sandwich a whole lot of those units. And that has been a free, I want to say probably 8 or so Zealots plus a Nexus. 1,200 minerals down the drain for herO, give or take. And you can see it reflected here in the supply count. Robo Bay on the back of this. Or Robo Bay. Ghost Academy, rather, on the back of this. We haven't had a single Ghost, by the way, in an entire best of 7. Okay, big aggression. herO decides to see if he can clean this up, and he needs to make this call. Because otherwise the Terran's going to outgrow him, and he actually finds the best engagement that he could have ever found here. Also, a lot of the Vikings have gone down. That means that the Colossi likely have free reign. In the meantime, though, this is only half of the Terran army. The other part, well, it is currently in the natural expansion. The Robo Bay gets targeted down first and foremost. herO has now decided that he wants to maybe commit to this attack, but I wonder if this is an overextension. Still, though, Archons in the front, Colossi in the back dealing an awful lot of damage, and it's going to cost a ton of SCVs if they decide to stand and fight. In the meantime, the Marine drop's still going on. 21 probes have already fallen. And it looks to me like this series is going to end just in the same way that it's been going this entire time. He picks up the wrong Colossus. herO not saving the low HP one, but picks up the high HP one, and the Prism goes down before that warp-in can complete. And despite a ton of SCVs going down, I think that more than justifies all of the losses here. Because he's been absolutely destroying the Protoss economy on the other side of the map. herO now sitting at a meager 37 supply. Clem at 120. I think it's time. Or army, send everything in. Kick him into the pit. Remember the movie The 300? That's how I'm picturing Clem right now. Make the little man fly. Different show. Also, herO is actually quite tall. Doesn't quite work, but GG. Ultimately, the world champion, he proves a bit too strong as he obtains the victory 4-3 over herO.